everybody, this is Seth with Film School Secrets, and in this video I am reading from my blog post, 7 Gritty 70s Films Every Aspiring Filmmaker Should See. So every new filmmaker should study movies made in the 70s as an example of what can be done with visceral storytelling and camera work and no special effects. And the 70s were an awesome time for gritty, realistic cinema and was known as the heyday of the director or the auteur, before Michael Cimino single-handedly bankrupted United Artists with Heaven's Gate. And here's a little context. In the 70s, the director was considered king in Hollywood, and it's how Coppola and Lucas and those guys like that were able to get their visions realized even if the studios hated what they were doing. For example, Paramount wanted Robert Redford to play Michael Corleone in The Godfather, and thankfully Coppola prevailed and said that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Filmmakers like Coppola stuck with their guns and they made great movies that made money, so the producers and studios were forced to play second fiddle. But then in 1980, unfortunately, Michael Cimino directed a movie called Heaven's Gate, and he was given free artistic license because his previous film, The Deer Hunter, was a critical and box office smash. But Cimino choked. The budget bloated to $44 million, which was insane back then. It was probably equivalent to over $100 or $200 million. And it only made $3 million in box office. It was one of the biggest flops in Hollywood history. It actually destroyed the studio that funded it, United Artists. So after that, producers took over and basically said, directors, you don't get a say anymore. And it's led to our current world of what I call Smurf remakes. You know, this is with producers and studios no longer granting that kind of freedom to directors. And when you think about it, even Paul Thomas Anderson, he has to fight for his next movie. The quality of films has suffered. The authentic voice of the filmmaker has suffered. And the grit and the reality of that decade gave way to, the Police Academy movies of the 80s. But cool thing is, people are getting a little fed up with the Hollywood stuff. And when you're making your first indie movie, be inspired by these movies to see what you can do. Because here's 7 hard-hitting movies from the lost decade that will light a fire under your ass. Number 1 is The Deer Hunter from 1978. And if you click on the link below to the actual blog post, you can see the clips from this blog post, Deer Hunter, 78, group of steelworkers get sent to Vietnam. Things get really messed up. Very simple premise, incredible movie. Spends the first hour getting to know the characters. It includes Christopher Walken, John Cazale, who was Fredo in The Godfather, and De Niro. Also, it's got Meryl Streep. By the time these guys are POWs, they're being forced to play Russian roulette. It is so insane. And it will just mess you up. Absolutely grueling. If you get into the movie, make sure you have a box of tissues handy for the ending. It will make you cry. Man or woman, I don't care. It's incredible. And the movie's so darn good. Won so many Academy Awards. It made a lot of money. You can see why United Artists trusted Cimino with Heaven's Gate. Number 2, Serpico. This is one of Pacino's first roles as Frank Serpico, the real-life NYPD cop who refused to be bought. And back in those days, the New York City Police Department was infested with corruption. It was a bad place to be. Serpico, though, he wouldn't take any bribes, so he was shunned by the other cops, and eventually he got shot on duty. The movie features great tension, gritty scenes, and classic Pacino screaming. And there's a great scene in the blog post. Number 3, Deliverance. This is one messed up movie based on a messed up novel, and it's also a classic. Another simple story, 4 suburban middle-aged guys, they go canoeing down a river in the Appalachian Mountains, and they end up getting assaulted by 2 terrifyingly real hillbillies. John Voight ends up having to become Rambo. Burt Reynolds, his bone pops out of his leg. Ned Beatty gets raped. It's messed up. I'm going to spare you that scene, but this one below typifies the suspense and the excitement and menacing feel of this movie. And if you watch, look fast at the end for Ed O'Neill, who's in Modern Family, and of course Al Bundy. He's in one of the final scenes as a highway cop. Number 4, The Conversation. It's not as violent as the other movies in this list, but it's still an intense and well-made example of great 70s thriller with foreshadowing to the future. Gene Hackman, yes, Gene Hackman in the 70s was awesome. He stars as a surveillance expert who becomes obsessed with a conversation he recorded while spying on a couple for a client, and soon he's in danger. And it's pretty creepy stuff. It's also got Harrison Ford and Robert Duvall. And the trailer is on the blog post. Number 5, The Marathon Man. 1976, Laurence Olivier plays a sadistic former Nazi war criminal turned mad dentist. What more could you want? Hoffman is the innocent schleb caught in the middle. of a nefarious plot. His brother, played by Roy Scheider, who you know, Chief Brody from Jaws, he's some kind of secret agent, and Olivier is convinced that Scheider told Hoffman something about his hidden diamonds, and that is bad news for Dustin, because he's going to get tortured. Features an opening car chase scene between an old Nazi and a Jew with explosions, and one of the creepiest dental torture scenes ever recorded. Number 6, The French Connection. Gritty detective drama. Gene Hackman, again, is a tough-as-nails cop, Popeye Doyle. Great name, great movie. He's on the trail of a heroin dealer, and it's got one of the best chase scenes from the 70s that you can see there. And finally, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Now, technically, I know it's a horror movie, but it's really a 70s horror movie. You compare it to the many sequels and remakes, and you're going to find this remains superior. The final chase scene alone still inspires me to panic attacks. It's a classic setup. A bunch of kids happen upon an abandoned house inhabited by some crazy mofos. But the execution and debauchery, especially at the end, is just great, straight up in your face filmmaking. It is so fast moving, it will freak you out even more than any big budget movie from these days. And I feature the ending in this clip here. So, such great stories, such great filmmaking, no special effects. And these same elements, add them to your first feature and watch how it gets people in the gut. To learn more about shooting your first feature and starting your directing career without film school, check out our upcoming webinar by going to filmschoolsolution.com, or click the link below to check out this post, and you'll have a link to Film School Solution down there as well. This is Seth Himes of Film School Secrets reminding you, you do not need film school to start a directing career.